There are four main relationship types in Microsoft Project. The first one and the default one is the finish to start relationship. So you have a task, task A, and finish to start says as soon as task A has been finished, that will enable task B to start. By default, if you don't change anything, that's what Microsoft Project will use to schedule all your activities. Think about the duration for a second. If task A takes 5 days, task B takes 10 days, the sum of that is going to equal 15 days. It's the least efficient of the relationships, but sometimes logic says there's no other way to do it. Another type of relationship is a start to start relationship, which suggests that as soon as task A is started, task B can also start. If you think about the logic here, if task A takes 5 days and task B takes 10 days, using this relationship, this whole activity is only going to take 10 days, depending on task B. So you can see just by changing the relationship here we've saved some time, but it may not be practical. That relationship type may not work for this. The third relationship is a finish to finish relationship, which again suggests that task B can finish dependent on the finish of task A. And what I'll do is I'll go through some examples of each type. Similar model for this, we would also get 10 days for this relationship. A is 5, B is 10. The last type of relationship is a start to finish relationship, which is just pretty much the inverse of this. In this case, it says that task A can't finish until task B starts. So effectively, if you're working on task A and task B turns up late, you need to keep going. In the finish to start relationship, you would have a similar sum of calculation there. So the real relationships where time can be saved are the start to start and finish to finish relationships. If you don't tell MS Project otherwise and use a high level work breakdown structure, like we've done, I'm just going to grab the paint category here, we've assumed that there's 4 walls and it's going to take us, let's just focus on paint, it's going to take us 80 minutes to paint those 4 walls. What Project's done is it said, okay, well, what's going to happen is wall 1, wall 2, wall 3, wall 4. And the sum of those is going to be 80 minutes because 20, 20, and so on. Right. As you can see from the last explanation, it's assuming that finish to start relationship. The first question in this example is, do we need to even have a relationship between the tasks? Another way of doing this is saying, okay, well, what happens if someone paints wall 1 at the same time someone's doing 2 and someone else is doing 3 and 4? Again, as I previously noted, this depends on us having the available resources. If time is critical, hey, maybe we can make those resources available. Using this approach here, where the tasks, there's no actual relationship between them, I mean, by default you can say it's a start to start relationship, the whole activity here would take us 20 minutes. Just by adopting this, we've actually saved 60 minutes or an hour from this project, which is a good time saving. Translate that to days or months, and you can see the larger scale effects on a project. Right, back to MS Project, and I'm going to show you how this can be practically applied to the software. What I've done behind the scenes, I've gone through and detailed this component of the work breakdown structure, which we're focusing on in the previous example. And I've gone paint wall 1, 2, 3, 4. I've also added in the linking here, which we would have had anyway because it's a series relationship. So even if I hadn't done that, all we would have seen was this as one big task. So applying the logic we talked about, if these don't need to be linked together, all I'm going to do is remove these relationships, and now the task can be concurrent. And that shows us that the paint task has gone from 80 minutes to 20 minutes, giving us that hour saving that we discussed previously. Given the benefits that we achieved by detailing the paint task, I'm going to apply the same level of detail to the rest of the tasks where I can identify a relationship that may exist that's better than the default finish to start. So if it's obvious that there's no other way I can do it, I'm going to leave it at a high level, but if I can find some efficiencies within a task, I'm going to break it down further. Okay, we're back, and as I said, I was looking for efficiencies within each task, and in some cases I have drilled down the work breakdown structure, such as clean the walls. I've broken that into each wall, and where this was 20 minutes initially, I said, well, 5 minutes per wall, and done. Patch the wall, broken that down, tape the wall, paint, that's cutting in, and that was 60 minutes. I've broken down to each wall is going to be 15 minutes. Paint we did earlier on, remove the tape, done, and the rest I couldn't find any efficiencies, so I left them at high level. When we start rolling those up, you can see what it's actually done. Is it's actually reduced our total project's duration substantially. I think prior to this we're running at 370 minutes, and if we just quickly insert a task here, we can see the duration of these is now 115 minutes. So we've gone from 370 minutes to 115 minutes, giving us a saving of 255 minutes. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and apply the scheduling logic, and this is going to differ on how you want to run your project. So for my intuition, I'm going to say that my project, I need to start off with cleaning. Once cleaning's been done, patching can occur, and I guess taping can also occur here once cleaning's been done, because we don't need to wait for patching. Once these two have been completed, then we can start painting, which is the cutting in, then the roller. Once the painting's been done, we can remove the tape. We can also wash the equipment. Once it's been washed, it can be stored. And I guess our last task here is the inspect task, which would require the tape to be removed. And that's it, I guess. The client doesn't really care about whether the equipment's washed, so we'll just link it to there. Alright, so I'm going to make this kind of pretty and just explain to you how you can link all these things to give you a bit of a schedule. So one way of doing it is by linking these categories that we've done here. So we're saying clean occurs first, no predecessors as per here. Patching requires cleaning, so we've linked that with the two. Taping, I'm going to change this to reflect what we've discussed. That patching no longer needs to be done as long as it's clean. These can happen concurrently. Then we go to the paint aspect. Cutting in, we've said that as long as this is our cutting in, patching and taping are done, then we can start that. So I'm going to put a 7 here to represent the patch, and I'm going to put a 12 to represent the taping. Okay. For the roller, we really need all the cutting in to be done, so I'm going to put 18 here. I think I've just replaced what was already there. Once that's done, we can look to remove tape, and we've decided that once it's painted, we can remove the tape. That's fine, I'll leave 23 there. Wash equipment, we've said look, the tape doesn't need to be removed. That can be done as soon as the painting's finished. So I'm going to put 18 there. Store equipment happens there. Inspect, I'm going to say as soon as the tape's removed, then we can start inspection. So I'll put that as 23. And client sign off, well, I guess once it's been inspected, we can sign that off. We might want to integrate some other tasks there to make sure the equipment goes away, and put some linking in project finish and bring all that together. But at this point we can look at our project. What I'm going to do is close the whiteboard, and we can see here very quickly what our project is going to look like. Okay. That's using the logic that we applied. If we quickly insert another task here like we did before, just to get a gauge of how long this is going to take us. Okay. Indented everything here. Using this method, linking everything in together like such, our project is only going to take us 80 minutes. So we've made a further saving. And the saving here was really achieved by running the patching and the taping concurrently, as well as negating the cleaning of equipment to be done prior to the client inspection. For me, that makes sense. We can actually do this and create some real savings in our project. So when the client comes to us, how long till I can inspect it and sign off on it? Instead of previously saying 370 minutes, we're now going to say, well, give me an hour and 20 minutes and I'll have it done ready for you to inspect.